حتى يقولوا لا إله إلا الله وأحاديث أخر في الكف عمن قالها. ومراد هؤلاء الجهلة أن من قال لا إله إلا الله لا يكفر ولا يقتل ولو فعل ما فعل. So now they have another doubt where they say that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he rejected the action of Usama when he killed someone who said La ilaha illallah. There is a story where in a battle, one of the disbelievers, when Usama was about to kill him, radiallahu anhu, then that person, he said La ilaha illallah. He said, I have accepted Islam. He said La ilaha illallah. However, Usama, he thought that this individual was only saying La ilaha illallah to save his life, because he was about to be killed. He thought he was only saying it to save his life, so he killed him anyway. So when the Prophet ﷺ found out about that, he rejected that action. He rejected that this should have been done. Similarly, the Prophet ﷺ said to him, he said, have you killed him after he said La ilaha illallah? Have you killed him after he said La ilaha illallah? Then there is also other ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that you cannot kill the people if they say La ilaha illallah. For example, أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يقولوا لا إله إلا الله. The Prophet ﷺ said, I have been commanded to kill the people or to fight the people until they say La ilaha illallah. Meaning when they say La ilaha illallah, then I cannot fight them anymore. This is what the mushrikeen or these ignorant people want to use. The ignorant people, they want to use evidences like this. Evidences where the Prophet ﷺ said that he has been commanded to fight the people until they say La ilaha illallah. So if they say La ilaha illallah, then after that you cannot fight against them. Like Usama, the story of Usama, he killed someone who said La ilaha illallah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he rejected that action. So the ignorant ones, the Shaykh says, they will say that someone who says La ilaha illallah, he can never be made a kafir afterwards. You can never say that he's committed kufr. And you can't kill him, even if he does whatever he does. As long as he says La ilaha illallah, then you cannot say he's a kafir and you cannot kill him. That's what these ignorant people want to say. The reality is that if somebody says La ilaha illallah, firstly, remember we said, saying La ilaha illallah, there's three parts to it. One is to understand the meaning of La ilaha illallah, to understand the meaning of it properly, what the conditions of it are, what the meaning of it is. Tawheed, affirmation, negation, and nafi wal ithbat. You have to understand all of that from La ilaha illallah. Then you have to say it. You have to pronounce it. You have to say La ilaha illallah. If somebody says that I believe in the meaning of La ilaha illallah, I believe it, 100% tawheed, but I'm not going to say it. If somebody says that, he's a kafir. He will not enter into Islam until he says it as well. Unless there is someone who is not able to speak. Sometimes certain people, they have illnesses or disabilities, they can't speak. That person, it's different. But somebody who can speak, then he has to say it. Then the third part is to implement and practice. To practice the La ilaha illallah and to implement the La ilaha illallah. So now a person who understands the meaning, he acts upon it and he implements it, that's one situation. But now these ignorant individuals, they say, anyone who says La ilaha illallah, then after that, they can do whatever they do and you can't say they are kuffar or kill them. This is false. This is actually going towards or similar to what the Murji'ah used to say. The Murji'ah, they were a group of people who are from the groups of innovation, min ahl al-bid'ah. And they used to say that once a person says La ilaha illallah, then he has complete iman in his heart. And once he has done that, then whatever sins he does, he is still a Muslim. And he still has complete iman. They used to say, the Murji'ah, they said that a person when he says La ilaha illallah, afterwards when he makes mistakes or does sins, those sins do not affect him at all. And those sins do not make his iman go down at all. So this is similar to that kind of statement. They used to say that whoever says La ilaha illallah, that's it, he's in paradise. And they used evidences like Man qala La ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. Whoever says La ilaha illallah, he's entered into paradise. So they used these evidences and they forgot about the other evidences. Because the methodology of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is that you join between all of the evidences always. Not that you take some parts and leave some parts. So here now, the Murji'ah, they took some parts and they said whoever says La ilaha illallah, that's it, he's in paradise, he's saved. But the reality is that an individual who says La ilaha illallah, then that does not mean that he is safe forever now. Because he needs to act upon it, he needs to understand its meaning. And if he does something which is shirk, then they can negate his La ilaha illallah. Look what the Shaykh says here now. يعني أن النطق بها كاف في إسلام العبد. They say that somebody who says La ilaha illallah, that's it, it's enough to be a Muslim. ومرادهم أنكم معشر الموحدين تكفرون من يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. They say, these ignorant ones, they say you people, you make takfir of people who say La ilaha illallah. You say these Muslims who say La ilaha illallah, you say they are committing shirk and kufr. So how can you say that? فَيُقَالُ لَهُمْ أو فَيُقَالُ لِهَؤُلَاءِ. The Shaykh says, so you say to these people, the ones who say that if you say La ilaha illallah, that's it, you're safe. And they give you the story of Usama. They say, look, Usama, he killed someone after he said La ilaha illallah, and the Prophet ﷺ rejected that. Similarly, the Prophet ﷺ himself, he said, that I've been commanded to fight the people until they say La ilaha illallah. When they say La ilaha illallah, then I can't fight against them anymore. So these ignorant ones, they say, the difference is the La ilaha illallah. Once you say that, then you're safe. Then you can't be fought against, and you can't be killed. And you can't be said that you are kafir. But now we say to them, فَيُقَالُ لِهَؤُلَاءِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ الْجُهَّالِ. You say to these mushrikeen, the ignorant ones, معلوم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قاتل اليهود وسباهم وهم يقولون لا إله إلا الله. It's known that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he fought against the Jews and he took them hostage, even though they used to say La ilaha illallah. Some of those Jews, they used to say, we believe that no one has the right to be worshipped except Allah. Some of them used to say that. But because of the other types of shirk that they used to commit, and because of their rejection of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all of their other errors, the fact that they used to claim that they worship one God was not sufficient to save them. It was not sufficient to save them. Instead, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam fought against them and he took them hostages. Similarly, we've already given other examples that the Shaykh is going to mention here again now. He says, وَأَنَّ أَصْحَابَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ قاتلوا بني حنيفة وهم يشهدون أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا رسول الله ويصلون ويدعون الإسلام. Bani Hanifa. Who was Bani Hanifa? What did they do? And as well, something else as well. Something else too. What else do we say? Bani Hanifa. Musaylim al-Kadhab. They believed in Musaylim al-Kadhab. They believe that this man is a prophet. But the Shaykh says the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they fought against Bani Hanifa. And Bani Hanifa, these people, remember, they had become Muslims at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And they used to say, La ilaha illallah. They used to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah. They used to believe in the Quran, they used to pray. They used to claim Islam. They used to say, we are Muslims. Everything. But still, the companions fought against them. Why? If they are saying La ilaha illallah, they are saying Muhammadun Rasulullah, they believe in the Quran, they believe in resurrection, they believe in the Prophet, then why did the Prophet fight against them? Or how could the companions fight against them? Because they still fell into that grave error of saying that Musaylima al-Kadhab is true. So when they made that error, even though they were saying La ilaha illallah, the companions fought against them. So La ilaha illallah by itself didn't save them, they weren't acting upon it. They weren't acting upon La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. How can they believe Musaylama is a prophet when they say Muhammadun Rasulullah? So because of that error, they still got fought against. Similarly, we mentioned the story of وَكَذَلِكَ الَّذِينَ حَرَّقَهُمْ عَلِي ibn Abi Talib رضي الله عنه بِالنَّارِ. What was that story? The one about Ali ibn Abi Talib burning some people. Who did he burn? Which ones did he burn? What did they used to say? They used to believe that Ali is... They used to believe that Ali is like God. They used to believe that Ali radiallahu anhu is like God. That's what they used to believe. And that's haram. It's not allowed. It's shirk to believe that. And these people, they were from the companions. They had learnt, not from the companions, they had learnt from the companions. These people had learnt from the companions. They were students of the companions, some of them. However, and they used to pray, and they used to do the adhan, and all of those things of worship and obedience, and say La ilaha illallah. But when they believed that Ali ibn Abi Talib has some uluhiyah in him, the companions all agreed, ijma', that these people have to be killed. And they were killed. So now the Shaykh says, وَهَؤُلَاءِ الْجَهَلَةِ مُقِرُّونَ أَنَّ مَنْ أَنْكَرَ الْبَعْثِ كَفَرْ وَقُتِلْ وَلَوْ قَالَ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وأن من جحد شيئا من أركان الإسلام كفر وقتل ولو قالها فكيف لا تنفعه إذا جحد شيئا من الفروع وتنفعه إذا جحد التوحيد الذي هو أصل دين الرسل ورأسه. Here now the Shaykh says, these ignorant people, if you were to say to them that if somebody rejects the resurrection, are they kuffar or not? They will say yes, kafir. If he rejects the resurrection, if you ask these ignorant ones, if somebody rejects the resurrection, is he kafir or not? They will say, yes, he's kafir, and he has to be killed. If you say to them, somebody who rejects one of the other pillars of Islam, he rejects the praying, or he rejects the zakat, or he rejects the hajj, if he rejects another pillar of Islam, then he's a kafir and has to be killed. They say, yes, he's a kafir, he has to be killed. These ignorant people, they will accept that. They will acknowledge that the one who rejects the resurrection, that he has committed kufr and he has to be killed. Even if he says La ilaha illallah. If he rejects the resurrection, they will say, yes, we accept, we admit he has to be killed. And if he rejects any other part of Islam, the prayer or the zakat or the hajj, he rejects it, then they say, yes, he's kafir and he has to be killed, even if he says La ilaha illallah. So then you can say to these ignorant ones, how come you people believe that if somebody says La ilaha illallah, but then rejects the resurrection, or rejects the prayer, or rejects the fasting, or rejects the zakat, but he says La ilaha illallah, you people say, no, he's a kafir, he has to be killed. But then why, when somebody rejects tawheed, even if he says La ilaha illallah, why do you people say, no, he's not a kafir, you can't kill him? Tawheed, is that bigger, is that greater, or the day of resurrection, or fasting, or zakat, or hajj? Which is greater? Tawheed. Tawheed is the greatest thing. All of the prophets and messengers were sent with the message of Tawheed. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Every nation was sent a messenger. We sent to every nation a messenger saying, worship Allah and stay away from the false deities. Tawheed is the head of everything. So now these people, they say if somebody says La ilaha illallah and rejects Tawheed, he commits shirk, he's still a Muslim. But they say if somebody says La ilaha illallah and rejects the prayer, for example, or rejects the resurrection, for example, he is a kafir. So does that make sense? The prayer and the fasting and the zakat, they are less than Tawheed. They say if they reject the less things, they become kafir. But if they reject the biggest thing, they don't become kafir. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. If you reject the big thing, that's what should make you kafir. Not if you reject the smaller thing. So here you say to them, how can that be right? How can it be right? How can that be true? That if somebody rejects the basis of the religion, the pillar of the religion, Tawheed, you say that he is okay, he's a Muslim, that benefits him. But if somebody rejects something less than that, the prayer or the zakat or the hajj, you say, okay, that one's a kafir. Say to them, your scales are wrong, your thinking is wrong, your methodology is wrong. Why do you say that somebody who leaves the zakat is a kafir, or rejects the zakat rather, is a kafir, but somebody who rejects la ilaha illallah, the meaning of it, tawheed, he's not a kafir. So that doesn't make sense. So this is what you can tell them also, that this methodology of yours does not make sense. But then the Shaykh says, وَلَكِنَّ أَعْدَاءَ اللَّهِ مَا فَهِمُوا مَعْنَى الْأَحَادِيثِ. Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala says, however, the enemies of Allah, they have not understood the ahadith. They have not understood the Quran and the Sunnah and the methodology of the Salaf. These narrations, they've taken them out of context. They've not understood them properly. They have not combined between all of the evidences of the Quran and the Sunnah. You have to combine between all the evidences to find the correct answer. They don't do that. Or they give precedence to their intellects. They say their intelligence is more deserving to be looked at. Their intelligence is more deserving than the texts. So because of all of these types of errors, they have not understood the ahadith properly. So now the Shaykh says, فَأَمَّا حَدِيثُ أُسَامَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. As for the hadith of Usama, when Usama, he killed an individual, a person who said La ilaha illallah. The Shaykh says, فَإِنَّهُ قَتَلَ رَجُلًا ادَّعَى الْإِسْلَامِ. He killed a man who claimed Islam. He said La ilaha illallah. But Usama radiallahu anhu still killed him. Why? بسبب أنه ظن أنه ما ادعاه إلا خوفا على دمه وماله. Because Usama radiallahu anhu thought that this person was only saying La ilaha illallah because he was about to die. He wanted to protect his life. That's what he thought. He thought he's only saying La ilaha illallah to protect himself, to save himself. Because he knows otherwise I'm about to kill him. So that's why he thought he said La ilaha illallah, just to save himself, and that he doesn't really mean it. So he killed him for that reason, because he thought that this individual was only pretending. And we know, the Shaykh says, Al-Kuffaru zaman al-Nabi sallallahu ahadu rajulain. The kuffar at the time of the Prophet sallallahu, this is in the explanation of Shaykh Muhammad ibn Ibrahim rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, the kuffar at the time of the Prophet sallallahu were two types. رَجُلٌ يَقُولُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ مُوقِنٌ مُخْلِصٌ. One of them was a type of person who says La ilaha illallah and he believes in it. He believes in it. وَمُنَافِقٌ. And another one, which is the hypocrite. So you have the types, you have the people who were the believers. They said La ilaha illallah and they believed in that properly. And then you have the type that were munafiqeen. Some of them used to say La ilaha illallah but they never used to believe in it. They used to say La ilaha illallah but they never used to believe in it. The hypocrites, the munafiqeen. Didn't they used to pretend and pray with the Muslims and pretend and go and do jihad with the Muslims and pretend and do the other acts of worship? They only used to do them just to show the Muslims, to pretend that they are Muslims. And they weren't really Muslims. That's why Allah said, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. That the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, they're going to be in the lowest pits of the hellfire. So they used to pretend. So there were some munafiqeen at that time. They used to pretend, say La ilaha illallah, and they don't really believe it. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا إِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. There were some people who never even used to say La ilaha illallah at all, the mushrikeen. There were some people who never even used to bother to pretend. They never even used to say it at all, the mushrikeen. So Allah said that if you were to say to them, say La ilaha illallah, yastakbirun. They become arrogant and they say no. وَيَقُولُونَ أَإِنَّا لَتَارِكُ آلِهَتَنَا لِشَاعِرٍ مَجْنُونَ. And they would say, shall we leave all of our gods for this madman poet? That's what they would say to the Prophet ﷺ. Shall we leave all of our gods to worship one Allah as this madman tells us? That's what they would say about the Prophet ﷺ. لِشَاعِرٍ مَجْنُونَ, a madman poet. And that's evidenced, we already mentioned, in the story of Abu Talib. Remember the story of Abu Talib, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ? When the Prophet ﷺ went to him on his deathbed and he said to him, Ya Am, قُل لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Oh my uncle, say La ilaha illallah, kalimatan uhaju laka biha inda Allah. It's a type of speech that you will have some case on the Day of Judgment, it will protect you, save you. But then the mushrikeen kept saying to Abu Talib, are you going to leave the religion of your forefathers? And eventually he said, I cannot leave the religion of my forefathers. Then the Shaykh says now, so that's the reason why Usama killed him, because he thought he was being a munafiq. Now, وَالرَّجُلُ إِذَا أَظْهَرَ الْإِسْلَامِ, the Shaykh says, if a person, he shows you that he's upon Islam, openly, apparently, it looks like he's upon Islam, وَجَبَ الْكَفُّ عَنْهُ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ مِنْهُ مَا يُخَالِفُ ذَلِكَ. If a person apparently shows you to be upon Islam, he shows you that he's a Muslim, he does everything that a Muslim does, he shows you that he is upon Islam, then it is obligatory now, the Shaykh explains, that you cannot do anything to him. You have to prevent yourself from doing anything to this person until some evidence clarifies the opposite of that. Until something clarifies to you and it becomes clear to you that this person, he was lying. He's not really a Muslim, he's a munafiq. When some evidence comes, that's different. But until you have any evidence, then if somebody shows you he's a Muslim, you have to believe it and say, you have to accept it. You have to stop and not do anything, you have to prevent yourself. The Shaykh says, يعني الحكم الشرعي أنه لا يقتل. The person who claims to be upon Islam, even if you think he's not, you can't kill him. You can't kill him until some evidence is there. ويجب الكف عنه ما دام في حالة يحتمل أن يكون صادقا ويحتمل أن يكون كاذبا حتى يتبين منه ما يخالف ذلك. And during that time, whilst he is saying La ilaha illallah and he's showing you that he's upon Islam, there's a possibility he might be a munafiq. He's only doing it to pretend. And there's a possibility he might be sincere. So you can't do anything until evidence comes to you that he is definitely pretending. But if you don't have any evidence, then you have to leave it as it is and you cannot do anything. وَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فِي ذَلِكَ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned some ayat about this issue. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. O you who believe, if you go out in the land, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, in the path of Allah, in jihad, فَتَبَيَّنُوا. Then make certain, make sure who are the kuffar. Make sure who are the people that you are going to fight. Make sure and make certain. That's what he says. فَتَبَيَّنُوا, i.e. فَتَثَبَّتُوا. Then he says, فَإِن تَبَيَّنَ مِنْهُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ مَا يُخَالِفُ الْإِسْلَامِ قُتِلْ. If you then find out something from him which shows that he is against Islam, then you can kill him. لِقَوْلِهِ, because of the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَتَبَيَّنُوا, i.e. make sure. So once you have made sure, then, and you know that he's pretending and he's not really La ilaha illallah, he's not saying it properly, he's pretending, he's acting, he's a munafiq, then that's something else and he can be killed. وَلَوْ كَانَ لَا يُقْتَلُ إِذَا قَالَهَا لَمْ يَكُنْ لِتَثَبُّتْ مَعْنَا. And if he was not going to be killed if he said La ilaha illallah, then there would be no point to making the affirmation or the certainty. If a person was not going to be killed anyway, then there would be no point in checking. The purpose of checking is so that if you do kill him, the ruling of killing is upon him, then you are certain before you do that. It's because of the link to the ruling of killing. Because if he wasn't going to be killed anyway, then there wouldn't be any need to make certain in the first place. Then the Shaykh says, وَكَذَلِكَ الْحَدِيثُ الْآخَرُ وَأَمْثَالُهُ. And similarly the other hadith, أُمِرْتُ نُقَاتِلَ النَّاسِ حَتَّى يَقُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. I've been commanded to kill the people until they say La ilaha illallah. The jahal, the ignorant ones, they say this means that once you say La ilaha illallah, you cannot be fought against. The Shaykh says these types of hadith and other hadith, the meaning of them is ما ذكرناه أن من أظهر الإسلام والتوحيد وجب الكف عنه إلى أن يتبين منه ما يناقض ذلك. The meaning of it is that an individual who apparently shows you that he is upon Islam, then you have to prevent yourself from doing anything. You have to restrict yourself, stop yourself, until some evidence comes that shows you the opposite of that. That shows you the opposite of what he is upon. If it becomes clear that this man is a munafiq, he is not upon La ilaha illallah, then that's something else, that's a different issue. But until you have that evidence, then you cannot do anything. وَالدَّلِيلُ عَلَى هَذَا, and the evidence for that is أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي قال أقتلته بعدما قال لا إله إلا الله وقال أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يشهدوا أو حتى يقولوا لا إله إلا الله هو الذي قال في الخوارج أينما لقيتموهم فاقتلوهم لئن أدركتهم لأقتلنهم قتل عاد مع كونهم من أكثر الناس عبادة وتهليلا حتى إن الصحابة يحقرون صلاة عندهم وهم تعلموا العلم من الصحابة. The Shaykh says now, the evidence for this, that you have to make certain. You have to make certain. Once you have made certain that this person is not saying La ilaha illallah and acting upon it properly, that he's committing shirk, etc., or he's being a munafiq, then the situation becomes different. How do we know that? The Shaykh says the evidence is the story of Usama. The Prophet ﷺ said, have you killed him after he said La ilaha illallah? He said La ilaha illallah. Have you killed him? Did you kill him after he said La ilaha illallah? Because, on top of that, the evidence where the Prophet ﷺ said, I've been commanded to kill the people until they say La ilaha illallah. Then also the Prophet ﷺ said that the Khawarij, wherever you find them, kill them. Wherever you find the Khawarij, then kill them. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if I was to meet the Khawarij, if I came into contact with the Khawarij, then I would kill them the same as the killing of Ad. I would kill them severely. But why? Even though the Khawarij, they were the most extreme in worship to Allah. They used to worship Allah so much, the Khawarij. And they used to do the remembrance of Allah so much, the Khawarij. They used to worship Allah so much and do the remembrance of Allah so much. But still, even the companions, they used to belittle themselves compared to the Khawarij. The companions used to think that we do hardly any worship compared to the Khawarij. They used to think even the Khawarij do so much worship. So how did the Prophet ﷺ say that kill the Khawarij even though they were even more worship, so much worship? But the Prophet ﷺ said kill them. They used to do all this worship and they used to pray and they used to recite the Quran and they used to learn the knowledge from the companions originally. They used to do all of that. However, the Shaykh says, فَلَمْ تَنْفَعْهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. However, even though they used to do so much worship, the companions used to belittle themselves compared to them. They used to say, these people, they do so much worship, the Khawarij. They used to say, La ilaha illallah. But their La ilaha illallah did not benefit them. وَلَا كَثْرَةُ الْعِبَادَةِ. Neither did their excessive worship benefit them. The large amounts of worship they used to do, that didn't benefit them. وَلَا ادِّعَاءُ الْإِسْلَامِ. Neither the fact that they claimed they are Muslims, that didn't benefit them. لَمَّا ظَهَرَ مِنْهُمْ مُخَالَفَةُ شَرِيعَةِ. When it became clear that they were going against the Sharia. When it became clear that they are going against the Sharia, then their La ilaha illallah and their worship didn't benefit them and they were fought against. The Khawarij, it's known. They used to say that the Muslims, if they commit a major sin, then you kill them. The Muslims, if they commit a major sin, they used to say, or rather not kill them, but they used to say they are kuffar. They used to say if a person commits a major sin, he's a kafir. That's it in the hereafter. In the hereafter, he's going to be in the hellfire forever. They used to say if somebody commits a major sin in the hereafter, he's going to be in the hellfire forever. He's a kafir, that's it. So they used to make these types of rulings and they used to fight against the Muslims and they used to kill the Muslims. So because of this opposition to the Sharia, then them saying La ilaha illallah didn't benefit them. The Prophet ﷺ said, kill them, even though they say La ilaha illallah. وكذلك ما ذكرناه من قتال اليهود وقتال الصحابة بني حنيفة. Similarly, what we've already mentioned about how they fought against the Jews and they used to say we worship one God, and how their companions fought against Bani Hanifa, but because they made the mistake of Musaylama and believing him, they were fought against. And all of these types of people, they used to say La ilaha illallah. They used to say that, but they were fought against because they did not implement the correct meaning of that. Then, the Shaykh continues and says, وَكَذَلِكَ أَرَادَ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم أن يغزو بني المصطلق لما أخبره رجل أنهم منعوا الزكاة حتى أنزل الله يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. In this now, the Prophet ﷺ, he wished to fight against Bani al-Mustalaq. Those people that time, he wished to fight against these people, Bani al-Mustalaq. And he commanded the battle should go out against them. He commanded that the battle should go out against them. When he was informed by someone that Bani al-Mustalaq, they refused to give the zakat. He was informed that Bani al-Mustalaq, they refused to give the zakat. So the Prophet ﷺ wished to go out and fight against them. However, the ayah was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, O you who believe, if a sinning person comes to you, if a disobedient person comes to you with some news, then make sure of those news that they are certain. Make sure he's telling you the truth. If some sinner comes to you, some disobedient person comes to you and tells you something, make sure what he's telling you is true. Make sure it's true. Because otherwise you might go and attack a group of people by accident and then be regretful afterwards. Because in this instance, the person who had come and told them that Bani al-Mustalaq are refusing to give the zakat, he was a liar. He had been lying. وَكَانَ الرَّجُلُ كَاذِبًا عَلَيْهِمْ. This man, he had been lying against Bani al-Mustalaq. They hadn't prevented the zakat. فكل هذا يدل على أن مراد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الأحاديث التي يحتج بها ما ذكرناه. So all of this indicates that the intention of the Prophet ﷺ from all of these ahadith is to make certain first. In the hadith of Usama, when the Prophet ﷺ said, have you killed him after he said La ilaha illallah? The meaning of it was that you should have made certain. You should have made certain, was he really from those who was munafiq or was he sincere? When the Prophet ﷺ said that I've been commanded to kill the people until they say La ilaha illallah, again you got to make certain. Once they say La ilaha illallah, you have to prevent yourself from attacking them and taking their blood and wealth until you have made certain that there is some error with them. That you have made certain that they have gone against the Sharia. Then, move on to the 11th doubt. The 11th doubt. وَلَهُمْ شُبْهَةٌ أُخْرَى. They have another doubt, the Shaykh says. وَهِيَ مَا ذَكَرَ النَّبِيُّ صلى الله عليه وسلم أن الناس يوم القيامة يستغيثون بآدم ثم بنوح ثم بإبراهيم ثم بموسى ثم بعيسى فكلهم يعتذرون حتى ينتهوا إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. قالوا فهذا يدل على أن الاستغاثة بغير الله ليست شركا. They have another doubt. They say that on the Day of Judgment, and this is true, it's authentic, that on the Day of Judgment the people are going to seek help from the different prophets and messengers. When the Day of Judgment happens and the resurrection it happens and the sun is come close to the earth and the people are terrified and scared, then they will say, who can go and speak to Allah on our behalf so that we can get out of this? So they go to Adam alayhi salam. They go to Nuh alayhi salam, they go to Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, and eventually they go to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he goes and makes that intercession. The mushrikeen, they say this proves that it is permissible to seek assistance and aid and help from other than Allah. On that day, the people, who did they go to seek this help from? They went to the prophets and messengers. The prophets and messengers are not Allah. So they said this is an evidence it's allowed to go to other people besides Allah. On the Day of Judgment, they are going to go not to Allah, they're going to go to the prophets and messengers. So they said, there you go, that's an evidence that it is permissible to go to other people besides Allah. You can go to other people, you can go to the prophets and messengers, and that is not considered a shirk. They say, how can that be considered shirk? On the Day of Judgment, they're going to do that. On the Day of Judgment, the people are going to go to the prophets and messengers and ask for their help. And that's true, it's authentic, they are going to do that. So they say that's an evidence that if we go to these graves now, it's allowed. The prophets and the messengers, it's going to happen on the Day of Judgment too. So that's not shirk, therefore this is not shirk. This is their doubt. فالجواب. So the answer is أن نقول, that we say سبحان من طبع على قلوب أعدائه. The Shaykh says, firstly, may Allah be far removed from all of these deficiencies. may Allah be far removed from any type of deficiency, the one who has sealed the hearts of the enemies, who has sealed, closed the hearts of his enemies. The enemies of Allah, their hearts have been closed, and so guidance does not come to them. Their hearts have been closed up, locked up. And so here the Shaykh says, how amazing. Subhanallah, that their hearts have been closed up and they've been sealed up. فَإِنَّ الْإِسْتِغَاثَةَ بِالْمَخْلُوقِ عَلَى مَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ لَا نُنْكِرُهَا. Al-istighatha is two types, or different types. Istighatha, seeking aid and help and assistance before or after some calamity it occurs, then that is permissible to ask besides Allah, to ask other people other than Allah. You can ask other people if they are able to help you. If they have the ability to help you, you can. Now if there's going to be somebody who's attacking me, somebody's attacking me and beating me up, and I shout out, I say, all the brothers come and help me. So I ask for all of you to come and help me. That's permissible, because all of you come to beat this person up. So you can seek help from people if they can help you. What's haram is to try to seek help from someone who can't help you. So if I was getting beaten up or somebody was getting beaten up, then he starts shouting, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, Ya Badawi, Ya Abdul Qadir. Are they going to come and help him if he's getting beat up? That istighatha is haram. But if you do it for someone who can help you, then it's allowed. On the Day of Judgment, the prophets and messengers, are they able to help the people and do istighatha or not? It's allowed. You can go to them. But they all make their excuses until they come to the Prophet ﷺ, and he does it, which shows that he can do it. So he goes and makes that shafa'ah. So that's the evidence here, that seeking help and aid and assistance to remove some difficulty, it's allowed to ask people and prophets and messengers on the Day of Judgment, etc., if they are able to do that. What's not allowed is if when they are not able to do it. So now the people, when they go to the graves and they ask them, are they able to help them? Not at all. They can't hear them, they can't help them. That's why theirs is haram, but on the Day of Judgment, that's halal, it's allowed, that's okay. That's the difference, but they haven't understood this. كما قال تعالى في قصة موسى, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the story of Musa alayhi salam. فَاسْتَغَاثَهُ الَّذِي مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ عَلَى الَّذِي مِنْ عَدُوِّهِ. So the one who was from his people, he sought assistance from Musa alayhi salam. He sought help from Musa alayhi salam upon his enemy. So it's allowed. Musa alayhi salam could help him. So when somebody can do something, then you can seek that help from him. But when it is that the person cannot aid you and help you and remove this calamity, that's when it's not allowed. For example, when you ask from somebody who's not even there, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, or you ask from somebody who's not even there, who's not present. For example, if somebody's getting beaten up in Manchester, and they say, oh, brothers of Bolton, come and help me. Are they going to hear you from all the way from Manchester? This type is haram, they can't even hear you. How are they going to help you? This type is not allowed. But when somebody can hear you, he's alive, he can help you, that's different. وَكَمَا يَسْتَغِيثُ الْإِنسَانُ بِأَصْحَابِهِ فِي الْحَرْبِ. The Shaykh says now, just like a person, he seeks assistance from his colleagues in battle, in war. In war, does the army not help each other? That's allowed. The army is all there, they can help each other. وَغَيْرِهَا مِنَ الْأَشْيَاءِ الَّتِي يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهَا الْمَخْلُوقِ. And other than that, all of these things that the creation can do for each other, then you can ask for assistance and aid in that thing. But when they cannot, that's haram. وَنَحْنُ أَنْكَرْنَا اسْتِغَاثَةَ الْعِبَادَةِ التي يفعلونها عند قبور الأولياء أو في غيبتهم في الأشياء التي لا يقدر عليها إلا الله. The Shaykh says, the type that we reject is when these people, they come to the graves of the prophets, or they come to the graves of the righteous people, and they do the istighatha of worship. They go to them and they seek istighatha, they seek this aid and assistance to remove the calamity from these righteous people in their graves, or when they are absent. They are absent in some other place, like when you're in Bolton, you shout out to somebody in Manchester. They're absent somewhere else and they seek, Ya Ali, Ya Fulan, Ya this person, that person. They can't even hear him. This type, and also for something that they can't help him in. So somebody goes and seeks aid and assistance and says, I want you to give me a child. I want you to be able to give me a child. No one can do that. That's not in the hands of creation. We can't create children. That is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide the children to whom He provides the children. So when you ask for assistance in something that the humans cannot do, that's not allowed as well. But when they can do it and they are able to do it, if you ask for assistance, then that's okay. The Shaykh says, إِذَا ثَبَتَ ذَلِكَ. So if you understand that and that's established, فَالِاسْتِغَاثَةُ بِالْأَنْبِيَاءِ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرِيدُونَ مِنْهُمْ أن يدعو الله أن يحاسب الناس حتى يستريح أهل الجنة من كرب الموقف وهذا جائز في الدنيا والآخرة. So if you understand that now, you will recognize that the istighatha which happens on the day of judgment when the people go to the prophets and messengers, they want the prophets and messengers to make dua to Allah on their behalf. And so can the prophets and messengers do that? Of course they can. So they wanted the prophets and messengers to go make dua to Allah on their behalf, so that the accountability could begin, and that the people of paradise could get out of that and go to paradise quickly. And this is permissible in this world and in the hereafter, to seek something which they are able to give. أن تأتي عند رجل صالح حي يجالسك ويسمع كلامك تقول له ادعو الله لي. It's permissible to come to a man, a righteous person, who is with you there and then, and he can hear you, and you can say to him, make dua for me. That's allowed. That's not shirk. If you say to somebody righteous, make dua for me. Yes, you should make dua for yourself too. Make dua for yourself. Return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make your dua. But if you were to say to some righteous person, you make dua for me as well, that's allowed, because am I able to make dua for you or not? I can make dua for you. Allah may forgive this person. Allah have mercy upon this person. I can make dua for you too. So there's no harm in you saying to me, make dua for me as well. That's allowed. If I'm alive and I can hear you. But if you sit here now and say, oh, brothers of Manchester, make dua for us, are they going to hear us from now? They can't hear. So that's not allowed. Or you say, Ya Ali, make dua for me. Can Ali radiallahu anhu hear you now? He can't. That's not allowed. But if somebody is sitting there, he can hear you, he can see you, say, make dua for me. That's allowed. كما أن أصحاب رسول الله يسألونه في حياته. Just like the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, some of the companions, not all of them, not the big companions, some of the smaller companions, the younger companions, they used to ask the Prophet ﷺ to make dua for them on their behalf sometimes. وَأَمَّا بَعْدَ مَوْتِهِ. As for after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, once he has died, فَحَاشَا وَكَلَّا أَنَّهُمْ سَأَلُوهُ ذَلِكَ عِنْدَ قَبْرِهِ. After the Prophet ﷺ died, the Shaykh says, then far be it, there's no possibility, no way that the companions used to go to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and ask him to make dua for them. They never used to do that. After he died, they never went to the grave to ask the Prophet ﷺ to make dua for them, or to take their dua to Allah. Never. Only when he was alive they used to ask him. بل أنكر السلف على من قصد دعاء الله عند قبره فكيف دعاؤه نفسه. The Salaf, they even used to say that if somebody goes and stands at the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and he makes dua to Allah, he makes dua to Allah properly, he's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He stands at the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, turns around towards the Kaaba and makes dua. The Salaf, they used to say even that is not good. The companions, they used to say even that's not good. Why are you going to stand at the grave to make dua? The mosque is so big, go stand in some other place. Why stand right next to the grave to make dua? Even if you are facing the Kaaba and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when people see you, they might get the wrong impression. They might think, everybody's making dua at the grave, I'm going to make dua at the grave as well. Because maybe they think there's barakah coming from the Prophet ﷺ. So the Salaf, they used to say, the companions, if you go there, if you are there, then even making dua to Allah facing the Kaaba, don't do it at the grave. Go stand somewhere else. The masjid is so big. Why are you going to make it a problem for the people? When they see that, they might think, maybe he's doing it because there's blessings from the grave. So don't let the people think these things. Go stand in some other place of the masjid and make your dua. So the Salaf, they used to even dislike that. So what do you think the Salaf would have said if we told the people that actually people go there and make dua to the Prophet ﷺ? Forget about facing the Kaaba and making the other way. Look at how much rejection that would have been. So this is the status of the people, and they need to understand these things, that the dua is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the ibadah, all of it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of that can be directed to anyone else. And that is the end of the 10th doubt or the 11th doubt. And next time we will start with the next doubt. And there's only 1 or 2 left. So inshallah, maybe even next weekend we might finish the book. Inshallah. But everybody should try to keep revising. Like we said, on spubs.com, there's translation of this book, 3/4 of it. 3/4 of it is done so far on spubs.com. If you have a look on the article, it says readings in Kashf ush-Shubuhaat or something of this nature. You'll find it there. 3/4 of it is done. And inshallah, hopefully soon we'll complete the whole book as a whole translation, inshallah. The people who Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu burnt, they were people who studied with the Sahaba. They were people who had studied with the Sahaba. They were not Sahaba themselves. They were people who had studied with the Sahaba. If there's any other questions, otherwise we'll leave it.